Mr. Kwame Dankwa, we have heard you promote incumbent or self-succession model for African countries. Sir, as the president of Harakati Muungano, why do you recommend incumbent or self-succession model for African countries and African people?
The incumbent non-self-succession model is a neo-constitutional proposal that compels the president and the ruling party to relinquish power at the end of a term of office without succeeding oneself, but allows the president or any member of the ruling party to succeed to the same office as president only after a minimum of a term of office absence, so as to eliminate the abuse of incumbency and incessant conflicts. The incumbent non-self-succession model can also apply to legislators of parliament, under which an incumbent member of the legislature shall not be eligible to be appointed, selected, or elected to succeed oneself immediately one's term of office expires, but can be elected to the same said office or another office in the legislature only after a minimum of a term of office absence. You will know that party politics in its present form has been the source of terrible disharmony in several African countries. But party politics can be very beneficial for socio-economic development if it is structured and practiced in an inclusive and consensual manner. In a number of African countries, the opposition and minority parties virtually have no chance of coming into power, even if they have the best of development ideas. And this is mainly because of ethno-religious factors and the sheer disrespect on the part of the actors for the values and principles of party politics. Given the sharp divisions and frictional fault dimensions along religious lines, ethnic lines, linguistic and socioeconomic lines prevalent in our societies, there is a need for structural transformation that will always build consensus in our polity so as to reduce conflicts and disharmony in our societies. The current design of the divisive, exclusive, and adversarial hyperpartisan politics thrives on competition, confrontation, and conflict. It polarizes society. Yes, it does polarize society. The first past the post and the winner-take-all politics are unduly polarizing and adversarial. The incumbent non-self-succession model, which is an inclusive and accommodating system, embraces the consensus, consultation, and cooperation attributes. This unites the community rather than divide society. The incumbent non-self-succession model promotes a political system that will guarantee the opposition and minority the possibility and opportunity to come to power, and thereby vitiate the incessant resolve of the opposition and minority to stabilize the ruling executive and the government of the day in an attempt to gain power. Under such an arrangement, you will agree with me, anytime the government initiates policies, programs, and projects, the opposition and minority will be constructively critical and progressively supportive because of the system guarantees their ascent to power. Because yes, if the system guarantees their ascent to power, they will definitely be constructively supportive. In most known games and competitions, there are always neutral referees and umpires who are not active participants. But in our competitive politics and elections, the incumbent government who controls the levers of state and appoints all the relevant officials in charge of state agencies, electoral bodies, security agencies, are often always active participants in all elections. This often creates suspicion, mistrust, tension, and conflicts among the various players. The fear of the incumbent continuing to hold on to power influences most opposition and minority parties to often work against the incumbent and wish the incumbent ill, which often tend to undermine the state in a quest to facilitate the rise to power of the opposition and minority parties. The fear of the exploitation of resources, ideas, policies, and programs belonging to the opposition and minority parties, and the fear of opposition and minority resources being used and transformed into political capital to favor the incumbent government to perpetuate their stay in power often prevents the opposition and the minority parties from giving out their best contributions in support of nation building. The trappings of incumbent self-succession and winner-take-all politics has made violence, the fear of violence, illegal election interference, and vote rigging a permanent feature of African election architecture. Hyper-partisanship, incumbent self-succession, and winner-take-all politics continually turns African people against each other, with one group of people fighting and degrading another group of people in their quest to gain political capital instead of focusing on sustainable development. African countries have too much to lose in continuing to maintain a system that often pitches brother against brother, father against son, mother against daughter, sister against sister, and that is to say family members against each other, but not in a healthy competition, but often through animosity and undermining each other to wrestle for power. Successive executive governments abandoned projects begun by previous government to pursue new projects within a concept with partisan priorities to gain political advantage. This gives rise to multiple uncompleted or abandoned development projects that result in investment and resource loss to the state. The resultant infighting and degradation among Africans holds back African countries' speedy development, as well as prevent Africa from focusing its energies and resources on dealing with the serious internal and external challenges so as to facilitate Africa's expedited development. The infighting, degradation allows opportunistic external elements and exploitative foreign forces to take advantage of African countries' internal divisions and weakness to exploit Africa's resources and devastate African societies. We, the African people, believe a new political arrangement such as the incumbent non-self-succession model will provide avenues for societal events by ensuring that new people, new ideas, new interests, new energy, and dynamic innovation are continually brought to the fore to represent different segments and interests of society through this new political model. We, the people of Africa, want a political system that will uphold and institutionalize incumbent non-self-succession politics because it has inherent consensus-building features. We, the people of this land, want a political system that will eliminate the exploitation of incumbency by preventing a president from contesting elections to succeed oneself. In most African countries, politicians are often more concerned about how they can get into power or retain power indefinitely than how they can organize society to produce genuine and substantial improvement in the lives of African people. Most politicians are more concerned with how they will destroy their opponent politically, materially, and even if the need arise, physically, to get into power or to remain in power, which does give rise on most occasions to human rights abuses, crises, coup d'etats, and even wars. Africa's ruling governments repeatedly get enticed by incumbent self-succession and winner-take-all politics to employ short-term development agendas to gain short-term electoral capital for the next election, instead of applying long-term development initiatives to guarantee sustained advanced development for African countries. The political system in most African countries coerces the incumbent government party to constantly focus on the next election and in so doing, effect short-term policies, accumulate unsustainable debts, and engender macroeconomic instability instead of planning for the next generation and pursuing sustainable development for the nation. The desire of the president to cling on to power by any means necessary, even when he or she has lost the confidence and support of the electorate, does give rise on most occasions to human rights abuses, crises, coup d'etats, and wars. The response from the opposition and the minority, who employ all fair and foul means to destabilize the presidency and the government of the day, do also fuel human rights abuses and conflicts. The exploitation of incumbency by a president seeking re-election has also been a source of tension for every election cycle. By making the president ineligible to succeed himself or herself, the activities of election years will become standard norms, and an ex-president term of office can be critically scrutinized before being given another term of office in future. The guaranteed opportunity for the members of the minority or the opposition group to be in government consecutively will remove the key to a lot of the troubles in African politics, especially the unusual desire by the opposition to get into power by any means necessary, and the burning passion of the party in power to prevent this from happening. African countries have been left behind by the rest of the world because of instability, insecurity, and underdevelopment arising out of hyperpartisanship, divisiveness, confrontation, and conflicts that is gradually becoming a permanent feature in our countries. African countries are too far behind on the development ladder to continue to allow hyperpartisanship, divisiveness, confrontation, and conflicts to distract our attention, dissipate our energies, and misapply our resources instead of pulling together and focusing on our development agenda. Incumbent non-self-succession model is a positive prescription for African countries because it will thwart the practice of excluding the losing groups from power for longer periods. Incumbent non-self-succession model will automatically bring consecutively to the fore new people, new ideas, and new energy to propel development. Incumbent non-self-succession model will enable the system to always sustain consensus. The incumbent non-self-succession model will always sustain consensus, given that consensus democracy is inherently more democratic as a result of its inclusive character, and it is also more conducive to political stability. So, this is the reason why I advocate and promote incumbent non-self-succession model as the way forward for Africans' development. Let's embrace it and move Africa to the next level.